am incredibly excited about this panel. We know that right now fashion and style is everything in sports, and we have the exact right people to dive right in. So I'm going to start here with you, Mr. Nigel Sylvester.
What's going on?
Nigel, of course, is such a staple in culture. He's a trendsetter in his arena, but so much of that starts with how you show up with your style. So how have you used fashion just as a means of self-expression for you?
Yeah, like I look at fashion as like a cornerstone of my brand, right? So since I was a kid growing up, creating content, riding my bike, what I'm wearing is just as important as the bike trick itself, right? Like I don't want to show up in a video and the trick is amazing, but what I'm wearing looks crazy, you know? Being inspired by my family, especially my mom and my brother who's super into fashion as well. It's like, man, like I realize how important it is and how I can use it as a form of self-expression and creativity.
And going off that idea of, you want it all to tell a story together. Yeah. Jeff, how have athletes specifically really driven the influence of streetwear?
I mean, going back to my early days of watching, my heroes growing up were obviously MJ, but also like Bo Jackson, John McEnroe, Andre Agassi. Particularly Agassi, you could see how like what you perform on the court is one thing, but then how you look doing it is another, And I don't know if y'all read Agassi's biography, but it's amazing about how he was like balding, but he was like wearing a hairpiece the entire time, and he lost Wimbledon because he was worried about his hairpiece coming out. It was all for the look and the fashion to make sure he was fly enough to maintain his performance that he was doing on court. So to me, just watching those gladiators perform on stage, wanting to emulate that and then adding my remix into that was key.
Yeah. And of course, we all know the Dion, you look good, you play good, they pay good. Do you really feel that way as an athlete, Nigel?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. There's times where like I'll put a good fit on, and before I even touch my bicycle, I'm like, today's gonna be one of those days, and like to like land a trick wearing a good fit, and like that trick is filmed correctly. It means everything to me.
I love that. Vineet, brands are increasingly building campaigns specifically around athlete identity and style. Why is that specific angle so valuable?
So at Chime, we're a bank that's trying to kind of break tradition of the big banks. We're trying to be a bank for everyday people who kind of feel like they get taken advantage of by the big banks, fees, and all that kind of stuff. For us, fashion is really it's bigger than just style. It's about empowerment. It's about self-expression. And we feel like Chime as a bank and connection with fashion allows people to sort of express themselves in ways that lets them be them, lets them have self-expression. The other thing that we believe is that fashion isn't just about money. It's about there's so many ways to express yourself. There's thrift culture, there's luxury, there's so many aspects of that. So we try to put all of that together and really connect our brand to how everyday people can get like style, fit, and the look that they want. And it's a big part of how we let people express themselves.
I watched a video of you discussing this idea that marketing right now is in a real golden age. How are you seeing that show up in fashion specifically and with athletes specifically?
I mean, if you do it the right way, for brands to be able to participate and collaborate with people like Nigel and Jeff and others, I mean, this is a new era of brand building, right? It's about authenticity, it's about co-creation, it's about collaboration. I think it's a mistake for brands to think that you can truly be the ones creating the culture. I think you've got to be a part of the culture. You've got to be involved in the culture. And I think this golden age is about not just the collabs, but also the ability to distribute all this content, all of these ideas in a mass way in ways that we've never been able to do before.
For sure. Coltrane, you have seen so much throughout your career and you know a lot about this shift. What has been the evolution from athlete as just billboard to athlete as brand?
I think it's really about activating the entire community around the athlete, not just the athlete itself. Like when you really look at these polymaths and these multifaceted kind of athletes who are able to perform on court, on field, but also off court and field, a lot of that's being curated by their teams. And so what we really try to do, one, from Team Epiphany's perspective, is mimic that as a model of engaging, right? And so thinking about the network and the team that creates it and empowering that team to work for brands. And I think the athletes that have been able to create a well-managed, well-diverse skill set team are the ones that are actually winning in the world nowadays. And when you really think about style, it's something that starts from a very young age to me, right? Like having kids and curating their style, it's about what do they see, what do they read, what is their worldview, what is their really life experience. And so, you know, when you talk about like Nige, right? Like, you know, he's been that fly, right? Like, and so the bicycle to me is an accessory to his fly. I think it's the other way around. And if you activate him in that particular way, you get great results. And so that's kind of like how we really look at style and athletes. It's really about the team that creates them.
I love that. And y'all see, Coltrane can fly. He said, my fit is going to be ready for this style panel.
That part.
You
Look at
see?
this guy.
Chocolatas. You
That's
understand?
just different right there, man.
Chocolatas.
Don't forget the sunnies.
The jellies.
So this question is for all of you. I'm curious if you remember a moment or a campaign or a person or a post that really made you realize that we were in a new age of athlete, fashion, brand relationship.
Recent or
Anytime.
all time?
Yeah.
Damn, all time?
Because we've certainly seen a shift in how we're consuming it, I would say, in the past 5 to 8 years. Do you have a moment?
Can Nigel name himself, or is that weird?
You absolutely can. Do you have a favorite Nigel Sylvester moment?
Nah, I can't name myself. That's crazy. But like something I was thinking about on my way over here was like just Iverson's impact on fashion, style, and streetwear and culture in general. Man, like he was so unapologetic, and I feel we see that like ripple effect of what he did back then to today, right? Like where athletes are really embracing like who they are, not being afraid to put fits on, not being afraid to show up. And for me, like that's how I show up every single day, right? Like I want to make sure that when I'm showing up, people know this is Nigel Sylvester and no one else, you know?
I love that. You want to add?
You know, well, we're in NBA season, Knicks. We'll be there. But when you really think
You
about
almost
like,
made it, by the way.
We almost
Come on,
done.
we got New York in the house.
New York.
We'll see. We're trying to find a coach. Sorry. But like when you really see a lot of, you know, the NBA athletes kind of like come out the tunnel, you see the fly, right? Like you look at, I would say probably like per capita, the Fly's team might be OKC, right? One, because they're young boys. But like, again, going back to the network that creates them, you got to really look at those guys' style, right? And not only just what they're wearing, but also the new silhouettes that they're actually creating, right? Like bigger pants, bigger shoes, like tighter shirts, things that are fit, right? And when you really look at them, they're also giving birth to a new industry of style makers, right? Like, so you get, you know, Bloody Osiris, or you'll get like Sober Young Walter, and you get like a whole team of these kind of like young kids who are actually creating these athletes look, and now it's time to tap into them because they are the nucleus where the cool is at, right? Like, so if you're really trying to get to the epicenter of where the sauce is made, like, that's the beauty of kind of like what style has created for sport, is that it's giving birth to an industry of young kids who weren't necessarily there 5-10 years ago, and it's important that us marketers take notice and engage them at the right time to help not just amplify what we're doing, but actually create the strategy of what we're doing. And so for me, again, style is everything, not just fashion. A lot of people can buy fashion, but very few people are stylish.
I love what you said, this idea of where the cool is at. And I'm curious, Vineet, for you, how do you find the cool in your space?
Yeah, well, we try to partner with people like Coltrane, Nigel, Jeff, and others to really participate where they're at, right? Probably one of the biggest indicators of fashion, style, sport, and brands coming together. One of our most popular series is something called Ballin' on a Budget. It's a social series where we're literally taking sort of that tunnel fit sort of culture, working with a stylist, working with an athlete, and trying to recreate those looks for our members with like everyday budgets, right? Vintage, trying to figure out a way to like get those looks without breaking the bank, really allowing people to have self-expression just through everyday sort of budgets and ways people can do that. We think that's a really important part of connecting what can be perceived as sort of a luxury culture into like the everyday, into the mainstream, and helping these things take off. There's a huge connection between our brand and sort of fashion style. It's been a huge part of us kind of getting the social following. We have 3 times all the big banks combined. I think it's a big part of it is because we participate with people like Coltrane, Nigel, Jeff, and others. It's a big part of what we do.
I love that.
One quickie for us, just to directly 60-second answer it. Like, where do we go from it? I think the first thing is I'm about to be 50 this year, so I can't go.
Woo!
I can't go.
Give it up for that.
Yeah, it don't crack. But like, I don't go in my closet anymore, right? I think like when you create an agency, we're about 100 people, but one of the secret sauces is we hire published writers. So when you really look at kind of like the publishing world imploding, people are still writing, right? And writers are in the mix. They're in the streets. And what's really clever about them is that they, can articulately illustrate what they're seeing. And so for us to hire, not just creative directors, right? But people who inform the creative directors who are the writers, they're connected to the subcultures, right? They're connected to all the future trends. And so being able to have an incredible team of writers who can convey what they're seeing and then translate into brand speak, that's a whole nother language, is a very, very important thing. But our secret sauce has really been going back to people who can write, people who can communicate and create, and who are actually connected to subcultures. And so that's a cheat code.
I love that. Jeff, what's your secret sauce been?
Well, can I answer the previous question about sport?
You absolutely
Okay.
can.
So you know what I loved recently is like Anthony Edwards' Audi campaign. That's the first on-court basketball shoe that have became resonating with like street culture. It was like crossover. It's been like decades since that's happened. And what I love is the competitive nature, because Anthony Edwards came out with Shoe of the Year. Then Converse basketball came and they put little ants in their campaign after Anthony Edwards was eliminated. I love that era of like, you remember when Reebok, Pump, and Nike Air were like neck and neck, and like Dennis Rodman said, I pump in, air out, and he threw the Nike away. Like, I miss that era, you know what I mean? So I love seeing that like competitive minor beef. It's not heavy beef, it's just like little poking
friendly.
the bear. It's friendly, it's friendly competition. I miss that.
Yeah, I love that answer. And to your point, just the amount of pride those guys take in the fact, like, this is my shoe. I'm not wearing anything else, and you should be in it too.
And then, Halliburton wearing a shoe that my friend Salehi Bembury designed in the finals. Now you got Puma, Converse, Nike, like Adidas all up in it. It's great.
Yeah.
It's a great era to be a sneakerhead right now.
Absolutely, completely agree. Nigel, for you, how has, if at all, social media influenced how you look at style moments, or has it at least redefined how we ingest style moments?
I mean, I feel like we all understand the magnitude of social media right now, right? It's everywhere, it's every day, it's so much, right? So when you look at certain style moments that launch from social media are able to have this incredible ripple effect, start to understand just how important when athletes show up and like they're challenging the norm, like how like impactful that can be. So for someone like yourself and in Chime, like you'll see certain athletes or certain things happening, and you're like, okay, we need to pay attention to this, right? Because it's for a reason, right? And like kids are resonating with it, and so I just feel like in regards to just to your question, right? Like how style and social media is impactful. It's every day for us.
For sure.
Yeah. 60 seconds, I'll do it. I wish social media went away for like a hot minute. I feel like social media is giving credit to a lot of people who didn't do the work. It's like this microwave culture of cool, that if you were able to kind of like cool kid cultural Equifax these people, you realize that like they're not cool to begin with. They just figured out how to get people to follow them and engage with it. But when you really look at it and you get them to show up in real life, you're kind of going to be disappointed. So for me, I like things to happen IRL a little bit more, right? Like, that's Naj, and when you see Naj, that's gonna be Naj, right? It's not gonna switch up on social. You're not gonna see some weirdo stuff, right? And these other kids are kind of like living and building brands off of these like unsupportive tectonic plates of culture. And the reality is, if it went away for a minute, we'll shake them out. They can come back later. But the reality is, we got to get closer to the epicenter where cool is, and it's not these kids who were born on the internet.
I also think, though, that speaks to when you talk about IRL and really immersing in reality, experiential marketing plays a big role in that as well. Where does that fit in the marketing playbook, and as you try to get closer to things that are real and tangible?
I always kind of try to tell our clients, we probably produce about 100, 140 events a year, and everything can be beautiful, right? Like, you can pick any shop to create something that's beautiful nowadays, right? Get a whole bunch of kids from design school, got a great production team, and now you have a beautiful looking experience. But the experience only works based upon the people who are in it and the people who are recruited to it. And so if you're not of the culture doing cultural events, We're going to find out because we're going to show up, we're going to pull up, and it's going to be pretty crunchy when we get there. And you're going to be let down. You're going to get let down. The client's going to get let down from the type of amplification you get from it. Kind of corny, right? You're going to get let down based upon the community of people that you're meeting. You show up IRL to network and meet with one another, and if you get in a room and there's a bunch of like weirdo kids that are just taking pictures of each other, and then of each other again, like you're not getting what the client actually is paying you for, right? Which are kind of like earned moments in culture based upon people who are in the room. So for the secret sauce for us for experiential is, yes, a beautiful experience, but what makes it beautiful are the people who are recruited there. And to be also honest, if you're paying for everybody to be in the room and no one's naturally being there, you've also got a whack room too. So that's very important for us at Team Epiphany.
Yeah, give it up for that. Vineet, you touched on this a little bit, but you know, one of the reasons people love athletes are their stories. And the way that marketing is really tapping into using athletes for their lifestyle opportunities, what shift have you seen there as opposed to it just being sponsorships?
Yeah, we always say at Chime, one of our things is we never want to rent culture. We want to be a part of culture. And to do that, you got to have a really authentic connection with the athlete, the celebrity, the stylist that you're working with. So when we're choosing people, when we're working with people, we're looking at their backstories. We're trying to make sure that this is someone who cares about the financial well-being of sort of everyday people, that's giving back in a certain way, that might have come from a place that is very connected to sort of my story as a first-generation immigrant, or our everyday people's kind of connection. So we are really big on finding those connections that are not sort of logo slaps, that are not just sort of, as he was saying, filling the room in an IRL context. We want folks that like deeply connect with this idea of unlocking financial progress for everyday people who feel left behind. And if that connection's not there, you got the wrong room, you've got the wrong stories to tell. I mean, anyone can put kind of lipstick on a pig, you know, but we don't want to do that. We want to have real stories, authenticity, and our partnerships are really about that.
Yeah. And that absolutely shows. Yeah, it absolutely shows.
But I think you also have to be able to teach, right? Like, so again, being able to put the right people, understanding who your consumer is. You know, the best consumer is one that you can have a trusted conversation with, and you're teaching them something and you care about their well-being, right? So when you really think about financial literacy, or if you really think about, you know, things that you can give a consumer that may not be one-to-one connected to your brand, but if they take away something that's impactful to their lives, that's where loyalty and trust is built. And so when you really think about, you know, your core product, your product can lift all tides. And so if you really think about like the importance that it has, that's the reason why we like a good challenge, right? It's more about how do we recontextualize and then redirect your goal and your message so consumers can receive it. But it's very important to give consumers things that they need. Like we're in a world that's, I was going to F-bomb it, but you know, we need to break through the clutter. There's a lot, and even out here when you walk around, it's just so many things that distract you.
Yeah.
But if you really care about your consumer and make sure that you can impact your lives, that's where you kind of like create loyalty with your consumer set.
I mean, you'll see on that front, like in our content, we're not talking about checking accounts and lending and things like. We're talking about helping people move forward, helping people achieve their goals, helping people get more literate with like everyday concepts. And that's to your point. What people don't need another checking account. What people need is to feel like they're going to have a chance to move forward and break out of like this negative cycles. And that's really the stories that matter to Coltrane's point.
Yeah. You know, Nigel, as you hear them discussing, you know, brand partnerships and storytelling and all what these opportunities look like in marketing right now, for you, what does creative control mean as an athlete?
Well, first I want to touch on the storytelling standpoint. I'm a huge believer that storytelling is everything, especially nowadays, right? There's a lot of clutter, a lot of noise out there on social media, on the internet, et cetera. And I feel the things that do cut through are the brands, are the partnerships, the athletes, the creatives who are authentically storytelling. And I know we throw that word authentic around a lot, but for me, it means really like
we'll come up with a new one
like real
together.
Places. Nah, we need to. I'm talking about pulling from real places, like real experiences. Like the consumer is smart, right? With so much information out here, we can see through the nonsense and like the BS. So, I know for me, like when I approach my brand partnerships, when I approach my content, I'm pulling from real places, right? Whether it's a childhood story, whether it's something that I was inspired by, an athlete that inspired me, an artist, a song, individuals like such as the ones on the stage and we hear now, all that's super important.
Yeah, I love that. What about you, Jeff, from your vantage point, when you are building, what does that creative control look like?
I mean, it's a lot what Nigel said, you know, and I think a lot of times creatives and brands tend to overthink things. Like if they just ask, what is the end purpose of my brand? What is my vision? Instead of trying to like overcraft it and put it into like a PowerPoint, just speak from the heart, you know what I mean? And young people especially their BS meter is like so finely tuned that they can tell when it's like they're reading a press release versus actually saying something true to themselves.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Did you have something to add to that, Coltrane? Okay.
You sure?
But Jeff, you know, I'm curious, as we are talking about the ways that, you know, fashion is changing athletes, how are you seeing athletes change fashion as well? How it's consumed, how it's dropped?
Oh, it's just athletes are like a new runway show now. You know, every night now, whether it's a tunnel fit, you know, or an award show, athletes are like the new model, you know what I mean? So they just go hand in hand. And I think you were asking about social media before. I think that's also a huge factor in what we do. I mean, even when we design a collection now, we have to be cognizant that 98% of our consumers are first experiencing what I design through a 72 DPI 3x3 inch square, right?
Yeah.
So for instance, like I have a rule when I tell my design team, it's called the 15 meter rule, which is, I'm using meters because we're in Europe now, so I'm being cognizant. But, but basically, if they can't tell that that's a staple shirt from 15 meters away, then we're like competing with Uniqlo at that point. Like it needs to say something or emote something, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now the entire collection doesn't have to be that because, you know, we do have an IRL store. So there could be details that when they come into the store, they get to touch and feel something more subtle. But by and large, you have to understand that the medium, which is the message, the medium is this big. So it has to hit the kid for that 1 millisecond that he's on your feed in a 3x3 72 DPI post. It has to make him stop in his tracks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, and you're doing an incredibly successful job at that.
Thank you.
This way. Nigel here has been a friend of mine for a long time. He always has something cooking. What's next for you?
We always have something cooking. But I'm such a big fan of element of surprise, right?
Okay.
Like, so I'm not gonna give anything away here. But if you know me and if you know my track record, we're always like, whether it's a piece of content, whether it's a shoe, whether it's an event. We actually have my annual bike ride coming up. I can talk about that. So a couple years ago, I decided I wanted to do an international bike ride called Go Ride, where I'll be able to use my, I guess like my network, my community, my positioning within bike culture, and do a bike ride that galvanizes different bicycle communities. So we did London and New York the first 2 years, and now this year will be our third annual Go Ride, and we're gonna do 3 cities. I'm not gonna name those cities right now, because again, we wanna keep that element of surprise there, but that will be happening very soon.
Congrats on year 3.
Thank you
That's
so much.
amazing.
Appreciate it.
Yes. Give it up for that. All right, well, to close it out, I would like for each of you to describe, you know, in your arena and how you approach your work, what does style mean to you? How does it show up?
Should I start?
Yeah.
So Coltrane, you're talking about this in real life experiences, right? So we just opened a flagship store in New York just for 2.5 months, and we've already seen.
Congrats.
Thank you. The impact that just seeing kids in real life versus a comment or a DM, it's like wildly different. And even especially for the kid, because now in this world of, you know, AI generated virtual reality glasses where you can literally like communicate with anybody, the ability to like shake a person's hand and actually have a conversation with them is the new luxury. Like kids leave and they're just like, yo, I like shook Jeff's hand and spoke to him. That's better than any retweet or regram that could possibly happen. So I'm really bullish about that. We're going to open more in real life stores. So this year we have China, Hong Kong, Korea coming as well. Yeah, so my thing is like the in real life stores become like satellites in each epicenter. So once you start connecting all these different cities, they kind of become like antennas around the world for what's going on in street culture. So I'm really excited about that.
That's amazing. Love that answer.
Yeah, for us, it's about continuing to explore the subcultures that we want to participate in. We're talking a lot about culture, but it's not monolithic, right? Culture's now really subcultures, subcultures of subcultures, cultures connecting. I mean, style is in gaming, it's in sports, it's in so many different areas. So what we're constantly doing is we're trying to figure out those connection points, those like subculture to subculture sort of unique stories that we can tell that bring things to life in a much more authentic way. I mean, that's how social media works now, right? None of us have the same feed. We've all got a totally different feed. We're living in an echo chamber of all the things we've clicked on in our lives. And somehow the challenge for brands and the content we create is we got to resonate in that feed. And I think more and more that's going to be about sort of connecting different aspects of culture together and finding stories in those spaces. And I think style is going to be a great connector of that. Athletes are going to be a great connector of that. But that's really what we're participating in now and trying to unlock more and more.
I'll do it in 20 seconds. I'm looking at the clock, and I know she knows what she's doing, so she don't worry, don't panic. That was 15 seconds now. Style, they're like fingerprints. They're yours. If it's happened, I don't want to see it again because I deem that corny and crunchy. So find your individual style. You can put on clothes and be fashionable, but style takes over your whole body, right? It's all about what you talk about, how you look, how you smell. It's a full 360 approach. So think about style as a fingerprint. Somebody else can't have it. And if you're copying other people's fingerprints, you're going to jail.
What jail is that exactly?
Style
What a way to
police.
close
The
it
style
out.
police over here.
Style jail.
No, I love that. I love that. Now I want to just echo Coltrane sentiment, right? It's
Yeah.
about being an individual. It's about showing up as authentically yourself, no matter what room you're in, no matter where you're going in the world. So yeah.
There we go. What a crew. Give it up for this crew.
Thank you.
Look at that.
Look at that. And perfectly on time. Thank you all so much for
Thank
your
you.
time.
Thank you all.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.